As the Cold War covered the world with the dark cloud of impending doom, Swedish engineers began a desperate race to produce a revolutionary multi-role fighter capable of fending off any Soviet warplane. With its unique canard design, double delta wing configuration, iconic airframe, and prominent vertical stabilizer, the Saab 37 Viggen aircraft took to the skies looking like a menacing double-winged arrow pointed right at the sun. Blasting through the sound barrier at over Mach 2, powered by a beastly adaptation of the Pratt & Whitney JT8 turbo engine, this fighter flaunted the globe's most remarkable lift-to-drag ratio at daring angles of attack. But what made it extraordinary was that it was the first warplane to carry an airborne digital central computer with integrated circuits for its avionics. No aircraft could elude it, arguably making it the most advanced combat aircraft in Europe when it first took to the skies in June 1971. In the 80s, the Vigen would get a chance to prove its high-tech equipment was not just for show. Over the Europe-Soviet border, one of America's most sophisticated and technologically advanced spy planes, the SR-71 Blackbird, had blown one of its engines. Two Vigens scrambled into action, racing against time to intercept and escort the damaged Blackbird. It was do or die. Reach the Blackbird before the Soviets got a chance to blow it out of the sky. Sweden's steadfast dedication to neutrality has demanded a self-sufficient defense game plan. This dogged independence has driven the nation to forge its own path in developing military might, particularly in the skies. The Nordic powerhouse has carved out its niche, crafting warbirds in-house, sidestepping the need to lean on the military machinery of the globe's heavyweights. Swedish warplanes, such as those produced by Saab, including the famous Draken, Vigen, and more recently the Gripen, are known for their quality, reliability, and advanced technology. Sweden has invested heavily in research and development to ensure its warplanes incorporate cutting-edge technology and innovations. This focus on high-tech solutions has allowed Swedish warplanes to remain competitive on a global scale, all while remaining considerably cheaper than other nations' fighter jets. By the 1950s, the nation's design philosophy and reputation were well established. As the Saab's prototype Draken, the world's then most aerodynamically slick fighter, took to the skies for its maiden voyage in 1955, the Swedish Air Force was already piecing together a wish list for the next big thing in their repertoire of innovative airplane design. They were dreaming big and complex, foreseeing a design odyssey that wouldn't bear fruit until well into the swinging 60s. Between the years 1952 and 1957, drawing boards buzzed with the brainstorming sessions of Finnish aircraft wizard Arne Lakoma, exploring a bewildering array of over 100 configurations. Lakoma headed the R&D department and was a living legend in Swedish aircraft design, having started his career fitting captured Soviet engines into old French fighters during the Winter War. His designs ranged from solo to dual engines, embraced both classic and innovative double-delta wings, flirted with canard wings, and even gave a nod to the then futuristic vertical takeoff and landing designs, albeit briefly. Right from the get-go, the Vigen broke the mold. It was a comprehensive weapon system, fully integrated and ready to sync up with Sweden's state-of-the-art electronic air defense network, Strill 60. The primary objective of Strill 60 was to integrate and modernize Sweden's air defense capabilities. This involved coordinating and controlling various elements within the Air Force, including fighter jets, radar installations, and missile systems. The system was designed to improve Sweden's ability to detect, track, and engage airborne threats, enhancing its overall air defense posture during the Cold War. As part of this larger scheme, the Vigen was intended to serve primarily in a defensive capacity, yet be versatile enough to tackle a broad spectrum of missions and roles. It was intended to perform supersonic dashes at treetop level, and then achieve gentle touchdowns in even the smallest runways. The Vigen had to be able to operate from runways just 500 meters long, a key piece in the Swedish Air Force's chess game of BAS 60, which later evolved into BAS 90. This strategy involved scattering aircraft across a patchwork of wartime bases, ready to spring into action from highways if need be, and still be game for takeoff on runways that were a mere 800 meters. By 1962, the puzzle pieces were falling into place. The jet, its heart-thumping power plant, the ejector seat that could punch the pilot out of trouble in a heartbeat, an arsenal ready for any mission, spy-worthy recon systems, ground support gear, and even simulators for virtual dogfights. February 1962 marked the thumbs up for the Vigen's blueprint, paving the way for a development contract signed in October. Renowned aviation authors Bill Gunston and Peter Gilchrist hailed it as Sweden's boldest industrial venture yet. By the 60s, the Viggen was swallowing a hefty 10% of Sweden's research and development budget. It was truly a mega project. Come 1963, Saab had the Vigen's aerodynamics dialed in, marrying an aft-mounted double delta wing with a forward-thinking canard foreplane. This was a game-changer for STOL prowess, supersonic sprints, and cruising stability. Canard designs later became the go-to for aerial agility in fighters like the Eurofighter Typhoon and the Dassault Rafale, but the Vigen was pioneering these skies first. Further tweaks included adding dogtooth notches on the wings to stir up vortices, scrapping the need for complex flaps, and banking on a thrust reverser for those runway-shortening stops. The power under the Vigen's hood was initially intended to be a British affair with the Rolls-Royce Medway. However, fate took a twist and Saab turned to the American Pratt & Whitney JT-8D, reborn as the Volvo RM8, cranked up to handle Mach 2 with a Swedish afterburner and a chameleon-like nozzle. Despite the nation's neutrality, the Vigen was shaping to be a remarkable multinational effort. Its service ceiling reached around 59,000 feet, showcasing its medium-altitude capabilities but staying well below some of the most high-flying warplanes in the world. By 1964, the first Vigen prototype was taking shape, and on February 8, 1967, it took to the skies, piloted by Erik Dahlström. The flight lasted a solid 43 minutes and was hailed as a marvel by Flight International. The 7 prototypes each played their part in refining the Vigen, leading to a government nod in 1967 that the Vigen was a more cost-effective and superior option to the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. By April 1968, the green light for mass production was on, with an initial order of 175 units, even as Saab explored the Vigen's maritime and photo reconnaissance capabilities. The warplane was officially named after the Swedish word Vigen, which interestingly has 2 meanings. The first is associated with Askvig, or thunderbolt, inspired by Norse folklore. The second meaning refers to the Vig, translating to a tufted duck in English, which humorously ties back to the aircraft's canard configuration, as canard is French for duck. The Vigen made its grand entrance at the Paris Air Show in May 1969, stealing the spotlight as a formidable warbird. Stretching to a length of 53.80 feet, boasting a wingspan of 34.78 feet and flaunting its distinctive canard design, she was the center of attention, turning heads left and right at the show. Soon, Saab followed up, delivering the first SK-37 trainer in 1972 and introducing the SEF-37 tactical reconnaissance variant in 1973. The quest for an all-weather interceptor led to the development of the JA-37 Vigen, answering the call for a robust air defense. This version brought to the table an updated airframe, a beefier RM-8B engine, cutting-edge electronics, and a revised armament layout, notably featuring a more pronounced tail fin and an under-fuselage gun pack. The JA-37's maiden flight in November 1977 marked its entry into operational trials, culminating in its service introduction in 1979, standing as Europe's most advanced fighter at the time. From the beginning of the Vigen's development, Saab made the trailblazing decision to design the fighter as a single-seater, banking on advanced avionics to shoulder the workload traditionally assigned to a human navigator. Sweden's foreign policy and interior policies also shaped this decision. With a fraction of the manpower some other larger nations had, every Swede airman was an invaluable asset, and if a navigation computer could take one of them from harm's way, that would be the path to take. The integration of a digital central computer and a head-up display meant the Vigen could fly solo without sacrificing precision or capability. This computer, known as the CK-37, was the first of its kind to harness integrated circuits head and shoulders above the clunky analog systems of other planes around the world. Developed by Saab, this airborne system could juggle navigation, flight control, and weapon aiming tasks with unexpected reliability, allowing the pilot to focus on flight and critical decision-making. As the Vigen evolved, so did its avionics. From the JA-37 variant onwards, the aircraft boasted a more powerful computer, the Singer Kierfot SKC 2037, reborn under Saab's wing as the CD-107. This leap in computing prowess wasn't just about flying faster or hitting harder. It laid the groundwork for the revolutionary avionics that would later define the Saab JS-39 Gripen. At the heart of the Vigen's sensing capabilities was the Ericsson PS-37 radar, a remarkable system highly efficient in air-to-ground and air-to-air tracking, not to mention terrain avoidance and mapping. The Vigen was a fortress of digital and mechanical innovation in the cockpit, from its Garrett A Research Central Air Data Computer to the tactical instrument landing system that made every landing a precision affair. Flexing its muscles as a bulwark against Soviet brinkmanship, the Vigen was kitted out to tote a devastating arsenal. This warbird could lug up to 7,000 kilograms of ordnance across 9 hardpoints, including a centerline pylon, a duo on the fuselage, quartets on the wings, and a pair nestled behind the wing's landing gear for those extra surprises. These hardpoint could accommodate air-to-air missiles like the Skyflash for beyond visual range (BVR) engagements and the shorter-range Sidewinder for close combat. It also featured a single 30mm Oerlikon KCA cannon with 125 rounds for close engagement. Additionally, it was equipped with hardpoints under the wings and fuselage to carry various weapons. Ground crews had to dial in the munitions load through a selector panel, letting the Vigen's brain optimize everything from fire control to fuel burn. By 74, the Vigen was earning stripes for its reliability and toughness, flying in the face of skeptics who doubted its complex, cutting-edge systems. Yet flying low and fast on attack runs, pilots had to keep a sharp eye on another hazard: birds. The Swedish Air Force, wise to the risks, kept tabs on avian migrations to dodge feathery fiascos. In the twilight years of the 1980s, the Swedish Vigen jet finally hit its stride, its cutting-edge avionics ready for the ultimate challenge. With the Cold War's simmering tensions but no direct combat between the West and the Soviets, Swedish Vigen pilots set their sights on friendly competitions to sharpen their claws. Remarkably, they set their crosshairs on the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird, the Cold War's sky-high queen of stealth and speed. Leveraging ground-based radar hints, the Vigens managed to clinch radar locks on the elusive Blackbird, outmaneuvering its high-speed evasions and sophisticated electronic countermeasures. Despite the odds, lacking the Blackbird's blistering speed and soaring altitude, the Vigen's advanced data links, meticulous mission planning, and the sheer piloting prowess of the Swedish aces turned the tide. The early encounters saw the Vigen's missile locks foiled by the SR-71's electronic wizardry, yet the Swedes doubled down, refining their countermeasures to consistently achieve missile locks on history's fastest jet. Swedish Air Force Vigen pilot Per-Olof Eld shared, quote, "In total I have 5 hot intercepts against the SR-71 to my credit. I was visual 3 times. On a couple of occasions the SR-71 was contrailing, which was very useful because you could do a visual check to ensure you ended up in the right spot." These high-stakes games of cat and mouse underscored the Vigen's capability to lock on to one of the period's most elusive assets, marking it as the only foreign aircraft able to target one of America's top-tier reconnaissance jets. This unique knack for engaging the SR-71 Blackbird not only showcased the Vigen's prowess, but eventually played a pivotal role in saving it. The Vigen's unique capabilities came to a dramatic head on June 29, 1987, American airmen Dwayne Knoll and Tom Veltri were cruising above the Baltic at Mach 3 and 75,000 feet in their SR-71 when disaster struck. An engine blowout, sending them spiraling toward the Soviet Union's doorstep. With clockwork precision, Swedish Viggens, having shadowed the American spy plane, swooped in for the save. As the crippled Blackbird plummeted to 25,000 feet, the situation was dire. Soviet jets frequently breached Swedish airspace, and the downed Blackbird was a trophy ripe for the taking. The SR-71 crew was acutely aware of their peril. Tom Veltri aboard the Blackbird captured the gravity of their plight. Quote, "We did not know who would find us first. Seeing the Swedish plane escorting us was a pure liberation. I'm absolutely sure that the Swedish presence meant that other interceptors were at a distance and could not therefore come to intercept us." This act of valor sealed the Vigen's reputation as a formidable force in the skies, its technological marvels standing shoulder to shoulder with the world's elite fighters. Although the Vigen never clashed directly with Soviet forces, its legacy was forged in countless quick reaction alert scrambles throughout the 70s and 80s. In these hair-trigger showdowns, the Vigen was a bulwark against Soviet incursions, a testament to its pilots and crew's swift, agile, and vigilant defense of Sweden's airspace. The Messerschmitt Me-323 Gigant loomed over World War II's battlefields like a behemoth from another world. The Gigant name was no exaggeration. It was the war's largest land-based transport aircraft, its jaw-dropping 181-foot wingspan dwarfing its contemporaries. Known as the Flying Whale for its massive 12-ton payload capacity, this colossus boasted the incredible ability to devour tanks, trucks, and even entire platoons, carrying them across vast distances to reshape front lines at will, promising to take Axis logistics to a whole new level. Roaring off the runway with 6 gnome-roan radial engines, it left the Me-321 glider on which it was based in the dirt, perfectly embodying the Third Reich's soaring ambition and technological daring. By giving Hitler the means to project German military might across Europe and Africa with unprecedented speed and scale, the Gigant was the ultimate vehicle for the Führer's twisted dreams of conquest. The idea of what would eventually become the Messerschmitt Me-323 originated with Operation Sea Lion, Nazi Germany's planned invasion of Britain. In the summer of 1940, as the German military made preparations for the offensive, they realized they lacked a viable means of transporting heavy equipment across the English Channel during the initial stages of an airborne assault. The Luftwaffe's existing transport aircraft, such as the venerable Junkers Ju-52, were simply too small to carry the tanks, artillery pieces, and other heavy equipment necessary for establishing and expanding a beachhead. This deficiency threatened to undermine the entire invasion plan, as the airborne forces would be left without heavy support in the critical early hours of the operation. Recognizing this shortcoming, the German High Command issued a requirement for a new class of aircraft, a large assault glider capable of carrying either an 88mm gun and its half-track tractor or a Panzer IV medium tank. This ambitious specification reflected the German military's innovative approach to combined arms warfare, seeking to merge the speed and surprise of airborne operations with the firepower and mobility of armored units. Although rising Luftwaffe losses in the Battle of Britain led Hitler to postpone Operation Sea Lion indefinitely, the need for a heavy air transport capability remained. The German military's focus was already shifting eastward towards the planned invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarosa. The vast expanses of the Eastern Front would require a logistical capability far beyond anything previously attempted, making the development of a heavy transport aircraft more urgent than ever. For the Germans, there was no time to waste. On October 18, 1940, just 4 months after the fall of France, the Reich Air Ministry gave aircraft manufacturers Junkers and Messerschmitt a mere 14 days to submit proposals for this new super-heavy transport glider. The extreme time pressure underscored the project's critical importance to Nazi war planning. Junkers proposed the Ju-322 Mammoth, a flying wing design. However, the prototype proved somewhat unstable, as well as impractical due to the challenge of acquiring the correct type of timber for its all-wooden design, leading to its cancellation. Meanwhile, Messerschmitt's response was originally designated as ME-261W, then changed to ME-263 before settling on ME-321. This behemoth of the skies was to be the largest glider ever built, dwarfing all previous designs in both size and capacity. The first ME-321 prototype emerged in early 1941, a marvel of aeronautical engineering for its time. With a wingspan of 180 feet and a length of 92 feet, 6 inches, it was larger than many contemporary bombers. The glider's cavernous cargo was 10 feet wide, 11 feet high, and 36 feet long, providing ample space for even the largest military vehicles of the day. To achieve the required payload capacity, Messerschmitt's engineers employed a number of innovative design features. The wings were high-mounted and had a significant amount of dihedral, which provided stability and helped distribute the immense weight of the cargo. The fuselage was constructed using a combination of steel tubing and wooden spars, covered with doped fabric to save weight while maintaining structural integrity. One of the most distinctive features of the ME-321 was its nose section, which could be hinged upward to allow for front-loading of vehicles and equipment. This design element greatly simplified the loading and unloading process, particularly for large, unwieldy cargo such as tanks or artillery pieces. The glider's landing gear was another unique aspect of its design. To support the enormous weight of the fully loaded aircraft during landing, the ME-321 was equipped with a total of 22 wheels. These were arranged in 2 main groups of 9 wheels each under the fuselage, with 2 outrigger wheels on each wing to prevent the massive wings from scraping the ground during landing. On February 25, 1941, the massive glider took to the skies for its maiden flight. The test pilot Carl Bauer reported that the aircraft handled surprisingly well for its size, although it required immense towing power to get airborne. The towing arrangement for the ME-321 presented a significant challenge. Initially, a trio of Messerschmitt Bf-110 heavy fighters in a Vic formation was used to tow the glider, a dangerous and complex arrangement dubbed Troika Schlepp. Later, a specialized 5-engine aircraft, the Heinkel HE-111Z Zwilling, was developed specifically for towing the ME-321. Despite these challenges, the ME-321 entered limited service in 1941 and saw action during Operation Barbarosa. However, its operational use revealed several limitations. The glider was vulnerable to enemy fire, difficult to tow, and once landed, immobile without specialized recovery equipment. These shortcomings, coupled with the changing strategic situation, led to a pivotal decision in the development of what would become the ME-323 Gigant. In early 1941, as the challenges of operating the ME-321 became apparent, the decision was made to create a powered variant. This new aircraft would retain the massive size and payload capacity of the ME-321, but would be capable of independent flight, dramatically increasing its operational flexibility and usefulness. Messerschmitt engineers faced the daunting task of transforming a massive unpowered glider into a functional self-propelled aircraft, capable of carrying heavy loads over long distances. The most obvious and crucial change was the addition of engines. The ME-323 was designed to be powered by 6 engines, a decision that would give the aircraft its distinctive appearance and nickname, Gigant. The choice of power plant fell on the Nomron 14N radial engines, each capable of producing 990 horsepower. These French-designed engines were selected partly out of necessity, as German engine production was already stretched thin, supplying power plants for fighter and bomber aircraft. The engines were mounted on the wings in a unique arrangement, 3 on each wing, with the inboard pair on each side housed in a single nacelle. This configuration helped distribute the thrust across the wingspan while minimizing drag. The use of 6 engines was not just a matter of achieving the necessary power, it also provided a measure of redundancy, allowing the aircraft to continue flying even if 1 or 2 engines failed. Incorporating these engines required significant structural modifications to the airframe. The wings were strengthened to support the weight and thrust of the engines, and the fuselage was reinforced to handle the increased stresses of powered flight. Despite these changes, the aircraft retained much of the ME-321's structure, including its wooden spars and fabric covering, to keep weight to a minimum. The updated model featured a more conventional landing gear configuration. At the front of the aircraft, a bogie with 4 small wheels provided stability. Along each side of the fuselage, 2 rows of 3 larger wheels were installed, maintaining the multi-wheel design principle. To reduce drag, these wheel assemblies were partially enclosed by streamlined covers. One of the most challenging aspects of the ME-323's design was achieving a balance between payload capacity and range. The aircraft needed to carry substantial loads, but also fly far enough to be strategically useful. To address this, the designers incorporated additional fuel tanks in the wings and fuselage, bringing the total fuel capacity to around 3,860 gallons. The cockpit of the ME-323 was designed to accommodate a crew of 5, 2 pilots, 2 flight engineers, and a radio operator. The flight engineers were housed in small cabins within the wings, positioned between the inboard and center engines on each side. This unusual arrangement allowed them to monitor engine performance closely and adjust as needed during flight. Defensive armament was also considered in the design. The ME-323 was equipped with up to 5 13mm MG-131 machine guns positioned to provide coverage against attacking fighters. 1 gun was mounted in a dorsal position behind the wings, 2 were in waist positions, and 2 were in the fuselage. By late 1941, the first ME-323 prototype was ready for testing. The transformation from glider to powered transport was complete, at least on paper. The first ME-323 prototype took to the skies in late 1941. Initial flight tests revealed both the strengths and weaknesses of the Gigant. The aircraft demonstrated an impressive ability to carry heavy loads, living up to its design specifications. The spacious cargo hold easily accommodated large vehicles and equipment, validating the concept of a heavy-lift transport aircraft. However, with a maximum speed of only 136 miles per hour at sea level, it was painfully slow by the standards of the day. This lack of speed made it extremely vulnerable to enemy fighters, a problem that would plague the aircraft throughout its operational life. The aircraft's handling characteristics also presented challenges. The massive size and weight of the ME-323 made it sluggish to respond to control inputs, and its low power-to-weight ratio resulted in poor climb performance. Test pilots reported that taking off with a full load required careful management of the 6 engines and a long runway. One of the most significant issues uncovered during testing was the aircraft's limited range. Fully loaded, the ME-323 could only fly for about 620 to 750 miles. This restricted its strategic utility, particularly for long-distance transport missions envisioned by the German High Command. To address these issues, Messerschmitt engineers implemented several refinements. The engines were upgraded to more powerful Gnome-Rhone 14N4849 models, each producing 1,140 horsepower, providing a much-needed boost in performance. The defensive armament was also increased, with some later versions carrying up to 11 machine guns to improve survivability against fighter attacks. Another crucial modification was the addition of rocket-assisted takeoff units. These rocket pods, mounted beneath the wings, provided a short burst of additional thrust during takeoff, allowing the ME-323 to get airborne more quickly with heavy loads. This was particularly useful when operating from short or improvised runways. Despite these improvements, the fundamental limitations of the ME-323's design could not be entirely overcome. Nevertheless, the pressing need for heavy transport capabilities on the Eastern Front meant that the aircraft was rushed into production and service even as testing and refinement continued. By September 1942, the first production ME-323s were rolling off the assembly line and being delivered to Luftwaffe units. The Me-323 Gigant entered service with the Luftwaffe in November 1942, just as the tide of war was beginning to turn against Nazi Germany. Its first major deployment was in the Mediterranean theater, where it played a crucial role in the desperate attempt to supply Axis forces in Tunisia. The Gigant's impressive cargo capacity made it invaluable for transporting heavy equipment and supplies across the Mediterranean. A single Me-323 could carry up to 130 troops or smaller numbers of vehicles, including a medium tank or 2 trucks. This allowed the Luftwaffe to airlift substantial quantities of men and material to North Africa, helping to sustain Axis forces in the face of growing Allied pressure. However, the Me-323's operational debut also exposed its critical vulnerabilities. Its slow speed and poor maneuverability made it an easy target for Allied fighters. Losses were heavy from the outset, with many Gigants falling prey to patrolling Spitfires and P-40 Kitty Hawks. The most devastating single engagement for the Me-323 fleet occurred on April 22, 1943. Allied fighters intercepted a formation of 27 fully loaded Gigants, escorted by Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters over the Sicilian Straits. In the ensuing battle, 16 or 17 of the transport aircraft were shot down, a severe blow to the Axis supply effort. Despite these losses, the Me-323 continued to play a vital role in Luftwaffe operations. On the Eastern Front, it was used to transport supplies to besieged German forces, notably during the failed attempt to resupply the encircled 6th Army at Stalingrad in the winter of 1942 to 1943. As the war progressed, the Me-323's role evolved. It was increasingly used for evacuations, helping to extract German troops and equipment from threatened areas. During the Allied invasion of Sicily in July 1943, Gigants helped evacuate Axis forces to the Italian mainland. Throughout its service life, various attempts were made to improve the Me-323's survivability. Some units experimented with additional armor protection, while others focused on developing more effective escort tactics. However, nothing could alter the aircraft's vulnerability to fighter attack. Production of the Me-323 continued until April 1944, with a total of 213 aircraft being built. Several variants were developed during this time, including the Me-323D6, which featured improved engines and increased defensive armament. Towards the end of the war, some Me-323s were pressed into service as makeshift bombers. Loaded with bombs and sent on what were essentially one-way missions, these Gigants met predictably tragic ends, a final, futile use of these remarkable aircraft. The lessons learned from the Me-323's operations and shortcomings influenced post-war transport aircraft design. The concept of a large cargo aircraft capable of carrying vehicles and heavy equipment would be refined and improved in later designs, such as the American C-124 Globemaster II and the Soviet Antonov AN-22. Today, no complete Me-323 survives, a testament to the aircraft's vulnerability and the intensity of the conflict in which it served. However, parts of the aircraft can be seen in museums, including a main wing spar at the Luftwaffe Museum der Bundeswehr in Berlin. In 2012, the wreck of an Me-323 was found in the Mediterranean Sea near Sardinia. This underwater time capsule provides valuable insights into the aircraft's construction and the circumstances of its final flight. The story of the Me-323 Gigant is one of ambition, innovation, and ultimately, limitations. Born from the need to support grand strategies of conquest, it ended its days trying desperately to stave off defeat. The Gloster Meteor, Britain's first operational jet fighter, streaked across the skies of World War II, heralding the dawn of the jet age in Allied aviation, its twin engines howling the end of propeller-driven combat aircraft. A product of wartime innovation, the Meteor's distinctive twin-boom design and sleek fuselage cut a striking silhouette against the war-torn European skies. But it was more than just a pretty face. The Meteor boasted a top speed that left its piston engine contemporaries in the dust, rocketing to over 600 miles per hour in level flight. At the time, a feat that seemed to belong more to the realm of science fiction than reality. Too afraid of its state-of-the-art technology falling into German hands, the British never gave the Meteor the chance to clash directly with the Luftwaffe's own jet-powered wonder weapon, the Me-262. Nevertheless, it carved its own legendary status by becoming the only Allied jet aircraft to see combat in World War II, proving its mettle and saving countless lives by hunting down and destroying the terrifying V-1 flying bombs that rained destruction on British cities. This versatile jet's influence extended far beyond the war years, going on to shatter world speed records, push the boundaries of high-altitude flight, and serve as a testbed for radical new technologies. From the frozen fjords of Norway to the scorching deserts of the Middle East, the Meteor's adaptability saw it operate in every corner of the globe, cementing its place as one of the most significant aircraft of the 20th century. The Gloster Meteor was a product of World War II, a conflict that accelerated technological advancement at an unprecedented pace. As the war progressed, it became clear that propeller-driven aircraft were approaching their performance limits. The quest for greater speed and altitude capabilities led to the exploration of jet propulsion, a technology that promised to revolutionize aerial warfare. In Britain, this pursuit was spearheaded by Sir Frank Whittle, whose pioneering work on jet engines laid the foundation for a new era in aviation. Whittle's first jet engine ran in 1937, but it wasn't until the early 1940s that the Air Ministry, recognizing the potential of this technology, sought to harness it in a combat aircraft. The goal was to create a fighter that could outperform the best piston-engined aircraft of the day and counter emerging threats like the V-1 flying bomb. The Gloster Aircraft Company, under the leadership of chief designer George Carter, was tasked with creating an airframe to utilize Whittle's innovative engines. Carter's team began work on what would become the Meteor in 1940, with the first design drawings completed in August of that year. The result was the Gloster Meteor, an aircraft that would become Britain's first operational jet fighter and the Allies' only jet aircraft to see combat during World War II. Offering a quantum leap in performance, the Meteor was designed to replace various propeller-driven fighters, such as the Spitfire and Hurricane, which had been the backbone of the RAF during the early years of the war. Born in the shadow of impending German invasion, its critical role intensified as the skies darkened with the menace of high-speed bombers and the terrifying new V-1 rocket. The context of its creation was one of urgency and innovation, with the stakes no less than the future of aerial combat. The design of the Gloster Meteor represented a significant departure from conventional fighter aircraft of the time. Its most distinctive feature was the twin-engine configuration, with the jet engines mounted in the wings rather than slung beneath them. This design choice was made for several reasons. Firstly, it allowed for a more balanced and robust airframe, crucial for an aircraft pushing the boundaries of speed. Secondly, it provided better ground clearance, reducing the risk of foreign object damage to the engines during takeoff and landing on potentially debris-strewn wartime airfields. The engines themselves were originally Rolls-Royce Welland engines derived from Whittle's designs, but the Meteor would later be fitted with the more powerful Rolls-Royce Derwent. These engines were a marvel of engineering for their time, providing thrust levels that allowed the Meteor to achieve speeds unattainable by piston-engined fighters. The Derwent engine, in particular, was a significant improvement, offering greater thrust and reliability. The Meteor's fuel system was designed to feed these thirsty engines, with integral wing tanks and fuselage tanks providing the necessary range for combat operations. The aircraft's systems were more complex than those of its predecessors, requiring new approaches to hydraulics, electrics, and pressurization to cope with the demands of high-altitude, high-speed flight. Meanwhile, the fuselage was designed with aerodynamic efficiency in mind. Its smooth, streamlined shape minimized drag, allowing the aircraft to maximize the power output of its revolutionary engines. The cockpit was positioned high in the fuselage, providing the pilot with excellent visibility, a crucial factor in both combat and landing. While the Meteor's straight wings were not as advanced as the swept wings that would become standard on later jet fighters, they offered a compromise between the need for high-speed performance and the requirement for stability at lower speeds. The wing's thickness-to-chord ratio was carefully calculated to balance structural strength with aerodynamic efficiency. In later variants, the wingtips were redesigned to improve roll rate and overall handling. The Meteor's empennage, or tail section, featured a distinctive design with a high-mounted tailplane. This configuration was chosen to keep the horizontal stabilizers out of the turbulent air from the wing and engine exhaust, ensuring better control and stability at high speeds. The vertical stabilizer underwent several changes throughout the Meteor's development to improve directional stability, particularly at high speeds. The aircraft's primary armament consisted of 4 20mm Hispano cannons mounted in the nose. This concentration of firepower was a significant improvement over many contemporary fighters, which often had their guns spread across the wings. The nose-mounted configuration allowed for more accurate fire and easier maintenance. Later variants, such as the ground attack versions, were capable of carrying rockets and bombs under the wings, significantly expanding the Meteor's combat versatility. The testing process for the Meteor was intensive and fraught with challenges. The first prototype, powered by Rover W-2B engines, conducted ground runs in 1941, but it wasn't until March 5, 1943, that the fifth prototype made the type's first flight, using de Havilland Halford H-1 engines due to delays with the intended power plants. Early flight tests revealed several issues that needed addressing. The aircraft suffered from directional instability, requiring a redesign of the rudder. Engine reliability was another major concern, with the early jet engines prone to flameouts and rapid wear. The positioning of the engines in the wings, while beneficial in many ways, created challenges in terms of structural stress and fuel system design. As testing progressed, refinements were continuously made to the airframe and systems. The canopy was redesigned to improve visibility, and the wings were strengthened to cope with the stresses of high-speed flight. The undercarriage, initially prone to failure, was reinforced to handle the higher landing speeds of the jet aircraft. One of the most significant improvements came with the lengthening of the engine nacelles. This change, implemented on later variants, dramatically reduced drag and increased the aircraft's top speed. The introduction of the Rolls-Royce Derwent engine in place of the Welland also brought substantial performance gains. The Gloster Meteor made its operational debut with the Royal Air Force in July 1944, when 616 Squadron became the first unit to fly the revolutionary jet fighter. Its inaugural combat role was not air-to-air warfare, but rather countering the devastating V-1 flying bomb threat that was terrorizing London and southern England. The Meteor's exceptional speed made it uniquely suited for this critical task. On August 4, 1944, the Meteor scored its first victory against a V-1 when Flying Officer Dixie Dean successfully intercepted one of the pilotless bombs. This marked not only a significant moment for the Meteor, but also the first time a jet-powered aircraft had destroyed an enemy aircraft in combat. Over the course of the war, Meteors would go on to eliminate a total of 14 V-1s. Demonstrating the effectiveness of jet propulsion in operational conditions. Interestingly, the Meteor's advanced technology initially proved to be a double-edged sword. Fearing that a downed aircraft might provide valuable intelligence to the enemy, British authorities initially prohibited Meteors from operating over German-held territory. This restriction was only lifted towards the end of the war, but by then the opportunity for the Meteor to engage in air-to-air combat with the Luftwaffe's Messerschmitt Me-262 had passed. As the war came to a close, the Meteor's development continued at a rapid pace. The F-3 variant, introduced in 1945, brought significant improvements, including the more powerful Derwent I engine, a sliding canopy for better visibility and increased fuel capacity. On November 7, 1945, a specially modified Meteor F-3 set a new world airspeed record of 606 miles per hour. This record was short-lived, however, as it was broken the following year by the F-4 variant, whose even more potent Derwent 5 engine and shortened wings allowed it to reach 616 miles per hour. These achievements not only underscored the capabilities of jet propulsion, but also spurred further advancements in aircraft design across the globe. Throughout the late 1940s and early 1950s, the Meteor continued to evolve. The definitive day fighter variant, the F-8, entered service in 1950. Boasting a longer fuselage, greater fuel capacity, and a standard ejection seat, the F-8 became the backbone of RAF Fighter Command. This variant also proved to be a significant export success, finding its way into the inventories of numerous air forces around the world. What's more, the Meteor's versatility led to the development of several specialized variants, each tailored for specific roles. The NF-11 Night Fighter, equipped with AIMK-10 radar, extended the Meteor's capabilities into round-the-clock operations. The FR-9 fighter reconnaissance aircraft leveraged the Meteor's speed and high-altitude performance for vital intelligence-gathering missions. Meanwhile, the two-seat T-7 trainer variant played a crucial role in transitioning pilots from propeller-driven aircraft to the new era of jet-powered flight. While the Meteor had missed out on air-to-air combat during World War II, it would soon have the opportunity to prove itself in subsequent conflicts. The Korean War saw the Meteor in action with the Royal Australian Air Force's numbered 77 Squadron. Beginning operations in July 1951, the squadron initially employed their F-8 Meteors as fighters. However, they soon found themselves outclassed by the newer Soviet MiG-15. Adapting to the situation, the Australians shifted their Meteors to the ground attack role, where they proved highly effective. Over the course of 2 years in Korea, No. 77 Squadron flew an impressive 4,836 missions. During these operations, they managed to destroy 6 MiG-15S, over 3,500 structures, and approximately 1,500 vehicles. However, this success came at a cost, with about 30 Meteors lost to enemy action, primarily due to anti-aircraft fire during their low-level ground attack missions. The Meteor would see combat again during the Suez Crisis of 1956. RAF and Israeli Air Force Meteors participated in operations, primarily focusing on ground attack and reconnaissance missions. This conflict provided valuable insights into the Meteor's strengths and limitations in modern combat scenarios, particularly when facing newer jet fighters and increasingly sophisticated ground-based air defenses. In South America, the Argentine Air Force employed Meteors during internal conflicts in the 1950s and early 1960s. These operations further demonstrated the aircraft's effectiveness in the ground attack role, even as its viability as a frontline fighter waned in the face of more advanced jet designs. Throughout its operational life, the Meteor also served as a vital testbed for new technologies. It played a crucial role in developing ejection seats, with Martin Baker extensively using Meteors to test and refine their life-saving designs. The aircraft was also used to trial various engine developments, including early experiments with reheat or afterburner technology, which would become standard on later generations of jet fighters. One of the most unusual experiments involving the Meteor was the development of the prone pilot variant. This modified F-8 featured an elongated nose section where the pilot would lie prone, a configuration thought to help pilots withstand the intense G-forces experienced during high-speed maneuvers. While this radical concept was ultimately not adopted for production aircraft, it exemplified the spirit of innovation that the Meteor helped foster in the early jet age. As the 1950s progressed, newer and more advanced fighters like the Hawker Hunter and Supermarine Swift began to enter service. The Meteor gradually transitioned out of its frontline fighter role, but its usefulness was far from over. The aircraft found new life in secondary roles, serving as a target tug for gunnery practice and even as an unmanned drone for missile testing. In these capacities, Meteors continued to serve well into the 1970s, a testament to the fundamental soundness of their design. The Gloster Meteor's legacy extends far beyond its direct combat record. As Britain's first operational jet fighter, it paved the way for a new generation of aircraft and played a crucial role in establishing the United Kingdom as a leader in jet aircraft design and production in the immediate post-war years. The lessons learned from its development and operation were invaluable in the creation of subsequent jet fighters, and its influence can be seen in later designs like the de Havilland Vampire and the Gloster Javelin. Moreover, the Meteor's impact reached beyond military aviation. The experience gained in jet engine development and high-speed flight contributed significantly to the advancement of civil jet aviation. The understanding of aerodynamics at transonic speeds gained partly through Meteor research proved crucial in the development of later passenger jets, helping to usher in the era of mass air travel. Today, the Gloster Meteor stands as a testament to British innovation during a critical period in aviation history. Numerous examples are preserved in museums around the world, including the Royal Air Force Museum in London, which houses the first prototype, DG-202/G. These preserved aircraft not only serve as static displays, but also as invaluable resources for historians and engineers studying the early days of jet aviation. A select few meteors remain airworthy, occasionally gracing the skies at air shows and serving as flying reminders of the dawn of the jet age. The Temora Aviation Museum in Australia maintains a flying Meteor F-8, allowing new generations to witness firsthand the aircraft that helped bridge the gap between the propeller and jet eras. The Gloster Meteor's journey from its genesis in the urgency of wartime development to its long and varied operational career exemplifies the rapid pace of technological advancement in 20th century aviation. Its legacy lives on not just in the aircraft that followed, but in the fundamental shift it represented in the nature of aerial warfare and aviation as a whole.